I think gaming is the true multimedia entertainment. You can't have opposing visions, can't have opposing missions. You have to start with the right mission and right vision. My formula for success is passion combined with hard work and pride for what you're doing.
Yeah. All right, I'm here with John D, Media One Up.
Yes.
Right, and we were just talking. You are in the video gaming industry, and we were talking earlier about sort of your origin story, right?
Mhm.
Because you come from Sega, right?
Yep.
You perfected the art of working at a corporate entity for video gaming, and then made a leap of faith in many ways into entrepreneurship with your own company, Media One Up,
Correct.
right? Let's talk about that a little bit because, like we were saying earlier, that is a ballsy move to make, right? To leave a corporate, cushy job at Sega and do your own thing. Like, let's talk about that.
Okay, well, so Sega was the first company that I worked with in the industry. But it was like, I was at Capcom for 11 years. Prior to that, I was at PlayStation for about 5.
Okay.
And then I made the switch over to Arcade One Up. And so that was I've been in corporate video games for most of my 30 years in the industry. And then even making a leap from a highly established video game corporation to even a startup.
Yeah.
Like Arcade One Up was taking
So
one leap.
Arcade One was a startup.
Yes.
Okay.
100%. So that was a big leap in itself, right? Coming from a huge organization with layers and layers of people, right? And different management levels, and then going to a startup and building something from there, from ground zero, and then making that leap and going to become an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Starting my own company. That was a very, very risky endeavor.
Yeah.
And
So when did let's talk about that, like leaving corporate America and starting your own. Okay. So you left Sega, you went to Arcade One Up.
I left Sega, then I went to Sony PlayStation.
Okay. It's PlayStation.
And then from Sony PlayStation, I went back to Sega for a year, and then I went to Capcom. Then went to, and that was Capcom for 11 years, and then went to Arcade One Up for 5, and then now I'm here. It's just Media One Up.
Media One Up.
Media One Up.
And you were saying earlier when we were just having a little chit chat that you knew somehow it was not if, it was when you started your own thing. And we were talking about, just the competitive nature of video gaming is a tough industry, right? There are a lot of people who are, kind of backstabbers. Like there's not a lot of cheering on of the competition, right? You've got the Activisions, you've got, the PlayStation, you've got the big companies. Where did you find it in yourself to think you could make it as an entrepreneur in video gaming? But let's be clear on one thing. It's not just video. You are retro gaming.
Correct.
Right, which is a niche. And we're going to talk about that too. But let's talk about how you took that first step.
Well, I think, being in corporate video games for a while, I knew there was going to be a ceiling.
Yeah.
Right? I knew, I come from the licensing sector more recently with a background in marketing, and the licensing level, I mean, there's no really C-level licensing people unless you're a CPO and you can transition to that. But I knew, sitting in my office, and I had a really nice office at Capcom in San Francisco, right across the street from the Giant Stadium, right? I could see the Giant Stadium from my office, and thinking, wow, I have it good, right? I said, this is my dream job. I'm in a great location. I have a nice office. It's but then I go, is this sustainable? I'm getting up there in my years in terms of, my career. And I'm not saying I'm old at all, but I said, you know what? There's going to be a time where I have to make that plunge, but it's very risky because, when you make mistakes in a company, in a corporation, right?
Yeah.
And I've made many.
Oh, yeah. We all have.
I've made $1 million mistakes or multi-million-dollar mistakes, unfortunately. if I do that for my own company,
it's a whole different.
I'm done.
Right.
And it's not that I don't take accountability, but there's a different set of risks.
Right.
How I knew that is going to work out is a leap of faith and trusting that I have the ability and have the connections and have the vision to do that. And that took a while.
Yeah.
And that took a while for me understanding how this works with Arcade One Up and everything. And so when we had a difference in the vision for the company, I knew my time was up there, and now I'm here, and I still don't know exactly where it's gonna go, but that's okay. I have goals, and I have a vision for it. So, but it's definitely risky. I mean, talking to my wife about this, of course, she's going to be conservative.
Wives can be a little nervy.
Of course,
when
and I have kids,
you're going on your own.
I know, right? I have kids. What are you going to do? Luckily, I can go under her insurance.
Right.
So I still have this kind of imposter syndrome.
Yeah. We were talking about that, and what makes it interesting, and when entrepreneurs tell me they have imposter syndrome, is that it flies in the face of reason of entrepreneurship, right? Like, is it because you lack confidence? Is it because there's a fear factor? Like, and so many people have imposter syndrome, right? But entrepreneurs, rarely do they say, I have imposter syndrome, right? Because they're fake it till you make it, right? Yeah. So to walk us through, because you were talking about it was kind of maybe a cultural phenomenon in your life, but the bottom line is you still did it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it's cultural. I'm Filipino, Asian, whatever, Pacific Islander, whatever you want to call it. But I think there's always this kind of humbleness that you have to portray as an Asian. Right. And I'm not humble by any means. I'll say that. I mean, that's a quirk in my thing, right? But when it comes to the work and stuff, like with my family, it's like, never think you're too big.
Yeah.
Never never think you're all that.
Right.
And so, we were raised to kind of not be boastful about our accomplishments and so even though when I think back at what I've done in my career, I can say, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
But when I really think about it, goes, no, that was actually really cool. But I think part of it is, how I was raised. I think part of it is definitely culture, but a lot of part of it is a lot of my peers, right? The people I look up to, and I said, man, like, I'm nowhere near where they're at.
Right.
It'll take me years. I don't think I'll even get where, to the point of success where they're at.
Right.
But I think it's just, my mentors give me that confidence. And so when they have that confidence in me, and then even though my imposter syndrome is still there, it's manageable. I even had trepidations getting on the show because of that.
Yeah. No, that is really interesting. And you said you have mentors that you work with.
Yep.
Who are your mentors?
So I have a lot, but there's a few that come to mind. One of them is Louis Reyes. So Louis Reyes was the vice president of operations in Capcom.
Okay.
And he's also Filipino, so he understands my culture.
Yeah.
But I could always go to him for life advice. He's a spiritual man. He's also a very reasonable man and very successful, right? So that's one. Marilyn Wyant was one of my first VPs at Sony. At Sony, yeah. She was a strong woman, and I love how fierce she was, and she believed in me. So when you had someone who believed in me, and I came from a game tester at the time just to one of her assistants, right? So she gave me that foundation and how a good leader should run their team.
Yeah.
Other mentors of my mom and my parents, my late stepdad who recently passed away, Mark Folletti, also instilled in me to have integrity, right? And there's so many more that I haven't mentioned. Javon, Frazier, a lot of people has helped me gain that confidence and just guide me so I can, if I talk through any type of situation, whatever I'm going there, take the time. That's the thing. A mentor has to take the time,
right?
to help you, and they've all taken their time to be in my journey where I am today.
So for entrepreneurs who are out there listening, what is your advice for setting up a network of mentors? Because everybody talks about it, but nobody really knows how to do it. Right. And so, I get a lot of calls, a lot of emails about where do I find, it's not an you don't go to mentor.com or maybe some people do, right? Like you find everyone around you is a potential mentor in some capacity. So tell me a little bit about how you put together this group of supporters and mentors.
It was organic. It's a lot of people.
It often is, right? Yeah. It's not like you go to a notebook, or a book. Like you have to put it together yourself.
Yeah. So mentors, again, they come from any facet of your life, whether it's your family, your friends, your heroes, whatever it is, right? The mentors I have is because was in the trenches with them. I was in the battlefield with them. Yeah. Right. And they were generals, where I was a soldier. Right. Right. And so them guiding me and going through these, we already kind of know the styles that we have. Right. And I pick mentors who have these abilities that I don't necessarily have or that I want to grow. Right. And these mentors become very valuable to you as you, start a venture, because they've been through it before. I've one of my mentors, Javon, who I worked with when he was in Marvel. He was the vice president of marketing at Marvel Games, and I was at the Capcom side. And just going through the battles, just even working with each other from two different companies that are sometimes in opposition, right? Going through that and showing like how we do things and our philosophies. I align myself with people with the same philosophies that I
think that's a really important distinction to make.
Yes. Yeah. No, totally. And so, I think for any entrepreneur, find people who've recently done it. Yeah. Right. If you find people who have recently done it and become successful, find people who recently done it and not be successful. Right. Right. They'll tell you what they've done right, what you should do in the beginning. Like, I didn't know what to do. How do I start up my own LLC? Yeah. How do I get financing? Yeah. No,
it's overwhelming.
Yeah. All the, how to set up the accounting. Right. All of that, how do you sustain a business when you're not getting paid for a year? Right. Right. Yeah.
And people don't realize that. Like, that's why, entrepreneurship is definitely the path of most resistance, right? Totally. It's a lot easier to stay working for someone else who's doing the worrying about it than to be the person who assumes, the greater financial risk. But, and it's a big but, it is so rewarding. Totally. When you succeed and when you are in charge every day of your success.
It's accountability.
Right?
It's accountability. Yeah. You're now accountable. Yeah. For yourself, for your successes and failures, where you're not sharing the failures, but at least the successes are more meaningful. Right. Because you took the risk. Yeah. And then, the success is based on your vision, and so, it's daunting, it's overwhelming, but I mean, if it was easy, everyone would do it.
Yeah, exactly. And so for those people, and it's just not everyone is meant for the entrepreneurial lifestyle and choice. But
oh my gosh.
For those people who are out there maybe listening to you, how did you get past that initial fear? And it's fear of failure, I think, that slows most people down, or the unknown, right? Like, what was the nudge that got you across the starting line?
Necessity, I guess. I knew that, with the last company I was at, that we had different opinions on, or different visions for the business. Right. So when that happens, you have to make two decisions, right? Yeah. Either go with the new vision, or rely on yourself. Yeah. To do it. And it's something that is very scary, but it's rewarding. Yeah. And for me, the timing had to be right. I always knew, again, like when after a certain point in my career, I was a director, senior director, a VP, senior VP. I knew, like, in my industry that there's a ceiling. So, to leave a legacy and also to leave sustaining a sustaining legacy for my children, I had to make this leap.
Right.
You know.
So, okay, let's talk about legacy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because that's not a topic that really comes up a lot in entrepreneurship because there's so much failure, right? Right. Why was legacy a driving force for you?
Well, it comes to the reason why I'm in this business to begin with.
Yeah.
Right. Legacy in terms of retro gaming, right? I feel that I would be one of the people responsible to continue to uphold and be a purveyor of nostalgia, you know. And there's not many people who are focusing just on retro games, but I see it as retro gaming just like anything retro, whether it's music or movies, right?
Or anything,
cars.
Motorcycles.
Yeah, I don't think retro goes out of style. I think they're the classics. So like in the video game industry, there's pop music,
right?
There's, like Call of Duties could be like the Taylor Swift or the Drake, right?
Right.
And no disrespect to all of those,
no, they're great.
all those people, right? But then retro games would be like the Beatles or the Jacksons or the Hieroglyphics or Wu-Tang. So, I'm lucky to find a certain niche. And that's how I think I'm going to be able to survive and flourish.
I think so too. And, if you look at history and you study business,
mm-hmm.
businesses that identify a niche, an untapped niche, and excel at their execution are the ones who succeed, right? And eventually can scale. But I want to take a
mm-hmm.
step back,
sure.
right? Let's talk about retro gaming and
mm-hmm.
what you guys do at Media One Up, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need to kind of explain that and what the niche is. And then we're going to talk about your business partner who's an influencer. But let's talk retro gaming.
Right. So in terms of retro gaming and its importance, to the industry and why I selected it, is because, I lived it.
Right. And what are the games you were explaining to me earlier? Because it's takes me back to my childhood playing Pong and, John Madden football, right? And they're fun games.
They're super fun. And so just like any piece of content or entertainment, classics are always going to be in. Classics are always going to be fun, always be memorable. Like the first time I played Pong, the magic I felt like that. Just like the first time I heard, my first Jackson's, song. It's just these memories, and Media One Up is basically, selling nostalgia and preserving the culture.
Yeah, like
arcade
an album,
culture.
like an
album
record,
And so what we do with that is, we either reimagine it or re-release it and put a certain modern twist to it. So, if it's Pong or whether it's Asteroids or Street Fighter or anything like that, taking that content, reintroducing it, re-releasing it in different formats and really attracting that crowd primarily who lived that, like the Gen Xers and the Xennials, and then reintroducing it to like the younger generations of millennials and Gen Alpha and Gen Z, where it has modern twist to it. That's what Media One Up is, right? And also One Up, a lot of people thought, oh, is this like a jab at Arcade One Up? Not at all.
Yeah. Explain the name, because there was a bit of a kerfuffle out in the ready room trying to understand what the One Up part, right?
Yeah. So the One Up part in gaming means you have an extra life. Yeah. Extra chance.
Right.
Another chance.
Right.
A second chance. It's kind of my next chance or second chance to make an imprint, on this industry. Media part comes where it's not necessarily just games. I think gaming is probably the true multimedia entertainment, because it's not like just movies where you're a passive observer or passive consumer of this, or listening to music. Video games brings all of that into one, right? You're in the movie, you're controlling parts of the movie. So the media part is the multimedia area. It's not just hardware, it's not just software, it's a lot of things. And then again, the One Up is my chance to my chance to make a mark. One Up is also not trade. It's a general term, not trademarkable. Yeah. So but it is a part of the culture.
Yeah.
It's a part of the culture. Like when you're in Mario and you get that green mushroom.
Yeah.
You go, I almost died. This game was almost over. Luckily, that green mushroom came up, right? Or sometimes you have a superstar. Sometimes you're powered up, and then you do that. So yeah.
Yeah, we were, you had such an interesting thing to say a little bit earlier. We were talking about the bad rap the video gaming industry gets, sure. Right? Like for the violence and for the, addiction issue and for the people who never leave their basements. And, I just want to, your retro gaming is different, right? But it was kind of the beginning, the introduction of, people really not being able to put down a device of some kind. So what do you have to say about people who are critical of the industry? I mean, there's nothing that they can do about it, but you are constantly under attack by critics. So what is your response to that?
I get it. I get it. It's not just like watching a movie, like I said. It's not just like...
you're in it. Like you're in the game.
Right? It's different from watching people shoot each other than your avatar shooting other people.
Right.
So I see why, people can be concerned. But we have to put things in perspective, right? It is like any other form of entertainment, except for, yes, it is more interactive. Addiction, people are addicted to their phones.
Oh, yeah.
People are addicted to drinking.
Yeah.
People are addicted to watching porn or videos or bad content.
I mean, you can be addicted to anything.
Yes,
it's a personality disorder.
It's a personality disorder. But again, I think you brought this up early in our talks. I mean, during the Roman Empire, right? Gladiators, seeing people get killed.
Like actual real people, not avatars.
Not avatars, right? Actual real people killing each other for entertainment.
Yeah.
Let's put that in perspective. And yes, video games get a bad rap, but the industry or the gaming sector itself, the entire industry is so diverse. It has different forms of, just like anything, you have different forms of segments within that genre. There's like your Mario Brothers, and there's the Animal Crossings and Tetris, versus you have these Call of Duties and God of Wars and very violent Halo. Yeah. The great thing about gaming is you're not actually killing somebody.
Right. No, I think that's a very good thing. Right? Unless if you're in a Hunger Games.
Yeah, in the Hunger Games. Yeah, it's like being the Hunger Games or playing.
Maybe odds ever be in your favor.
Exactly. So I think it needs to be put in perspective. I still think there should be, guidelines.
Yeah.
We have the ESRB.
Right.
As a guy that started with Mortal Kombat, because that was so...
Mortal Kombat. Is that still around?
Oh, yeah. Mortal Kombat's been around for a while. I think it's probably its 11th iteration.
Yeah, my parents wouldn't let me play it.
And I probably wouldn't let my 5-year-old play it either.
No,
right?
I was like 12 and they were like, no. But, whatever. I was in Texas. Different rules.
Right. And I think that's where it started about regulations, because every industry has regulations, like the rating systems,
just like on records, just like on movies, like on any kind of media.
So Mortal Kombat was the first one to actually start the movement for regulation in video games, with Senator Lieberman at that time, and again, now gaming is so much widespread. It's so widespread. Like almost everyone's a gamer.
Yeah, of some capacity.
Of some format. And there definitely should be regulations continue, but reasonable ones. We have to understand that, gaming is even bigger than Hollywood.
Yeah.
So there is a responsibility.
And the music part of gaming is its own sector.
Yep.
And it is wildly important economically.
100%. Like there's a whole genre of a subset of gaming and music, which is video game music.
Yeah.
Right. That's so kind of, you remember like Mario, right?
Yeah. I mean, that is iconic music. It shows up in all the memes now.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And it's endearing because, at the time you can't put a full orchestral digital, representation of your music. It was all like, bits and, very, very low powerful sound chips, but they're able to create wonderful music from it. Like Mega Man is also another old school video game franchises that there's a whole fan base just on the Mega Man music, the 8-bit chiptune music.
Right.
Yeah, so music is super important to this genre, as well as the graphics and everything else. So
and the storytelling.
Right?
Like the storytelling is so complex anymore, and the character development is, it's like a book, right? Like you choose
your own adventure
journey. I mean,
remember those books? Choose Your Adventure.
I do, and I love them.
Yeah, it's basically that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like
what about like AI? How do you? I know. I mean, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
But it's something we need to talk about.
We do,
because AI is like, gaming in particular seems to be either an opportunity or a threat. AI. So how do you approach the whole subject, right? Because it can derail retro gaming, right? Because it's got access to, historical databases of retro. Like what is your approach, right? Or what is your philosophy on AI in the gaming industry?
Like with any technology, it could be used for positive and negative.
Right.
Right. But this is different. This leap in technology is
totally different.
Yeah. I mean, how AI is going to be approached is how people are using it right now. There's so many efficiencies now.
Yep.
That can be made from AI. AI can make...
It's so good.
It's so good. It's too good. It's too good, but also AI needs wisdom. That's what AI does not have.
It needs a soul.
It needs a soul. It needs wisdom.
I have a problem with it because while it is good on the mechanics of an exercise, it lacks soul and voice and character
and experience.
Right?
Nothing can beat the human experience.
No, I know. But what do we do?
Well, that's the thing. We need to use it, and I think society will learn how to use it in the right way, and it's also going to be exploited as well. Yeah. We have to just understand, but it's affecting businesses across the board.
Oh yeah,
in good and bad ways.
Yeah,
I mean, the stuff that I've seen in terms of like the graphics, right? Being able to just type in a few words and for that to come out through a beautiful CG image is unheard of.
It's amazing.
And it's getting better.
Yeah.
And not just that, when you talk about gaming, the AI of the world environment itself, it's like a different level now, right? Yeah. It's like a new reality. When you're implementing in gaming, these enemies or the bosses or whatever become way smarter. Yeah. They can see and predict now, your actions.
Yeah.
But also, like from a business standpoint, it makes things way more efficient. The problem is the over-reliance of AI.
Yeah.
And thinking that's the solution to everything. Yeah. No, there's nothing that beats the experience or the wisdom.
We need to keep using our brains, right?
Yep.
Like their muscles, or they need a workout, right? And so, the more we rely on AI, the stupider we risk as a species becoming. And I think the gaming industry is going to be a very interesting petri dish.
I think it's probably the biggest one, so too. And the most most visible use of AI.
Yeah.
You're right. AI is changing education in a huge way.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's going to be for the better yet.
I guess it's too early.
It's too early to say.
And you kind of have to master AI where it is, meet it at the moment.
Yep.
And not be afraid of it, but also be aware, right, of what's coming.
Like, it's a tool.
Especially for business. It's a tool.
It's a tool.
It's like a spell check.
Yes,
right?
it's a spell check,
right?
but like ultimate spell check. Not only spell check. This is how you should write it.
Right. And using your voice in the writing, it's actually. I asked AI to write something in the voice of Amy Cosper, right?
Right.
And it went out, it found all the writing that I've done, and it wrote something. And I'm telling you, it was pretty damn close.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. It has to be a tool.
It has to be a tool. It cannot do the original thinking.
It can do the original thinking, even though it's good first draft.
Yeah, it's a good first draft. It's a V1.
It's a V1. Right. And it's funny because... my last company, we were using, it affected right away. We didn't have a copywriter anymore.
Yeah. Nope.
The marketing team felt that AI was sufficient.
Yep.
And then, of course, I'm one of the people who have to approve the copy.
Yeah.
And I'm reading this, I go, man, you know what? AI has a style.
Yeah, you can totally, it's a pattern.
It's a pattern,
right?
It's a style,
Like it's
right?
got an algorithm in its writing, and you can pick it up.
You can pick it up.
Every single
I
time.
can pick it up every single time. And I, when someone brings me the first draft, I said, well, AI did a great first draft. So what did you do in terms of...
Bring me some voice.
Bring some voice, right?
Yeah.
And so that's when wisdom and experience comes in, right?
Yeah.
So you can see what AI wrote and say, okay, you know what, this is... It's a good kind of generic, even cheesy way of, sometimes.
And it is largely
writing.
cheesy.
Yeah, right. You can tell, but it's a good first tool, and people who know how to use the tool will be able to be more efficient in their work, so they can focus on other facets.
Yeah.
But definitely, I could tell anytime someone has written something from AI, and AI can tell when AI has been written. There are AI checkers that said, no, this is 90% AI.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but again, like the people who are lazy and who don't want to think, AI will get you a C-.
Yeah, on a good day.
On a good day.
I think it's a D.
A D plus, maybe.
To a D plus.
Yeah. D plus is probably the worst grade in.
It feels bad.
Because like they give you that plus because you almost passed.
Bother? Like
it's an insult.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
I'm sorry, I digress.
No, it's a very important topic to talk about with entrepreneurs, and especially entrepreneurs in tech and gaming and industries that are greatly benefit from AI, and also have the potential vulnerabilities from the technology. You've been so honest and so frank and transparent about imposter syndrome and about, really your bravery and what you did. You didn't call it bravery. I just want your parents to know you weren't bragging or anything. No. But for startups out there and people who really want to, be a part of the gaming industry, and, it's tough industry.
Yes, it is.
It's really, really hard.
Especially now,
and it's only going to get more and more competitive and difficult to penetrate. But what advice do you have for startups? Like, what is the greatest piece of wisdom you've gained through the experience that you have?
For a startup or just business in general?
In general, I think.
Okay, I think in any organization, right, you can't have opposing visions.
Yeah.
You can't have opposing missions. You have to start with the right mission and right vision, and whether that's because with any organization, right?
Any organization,
because it's doomed to fail.
When you say, competing visions, are you talking about, leadership?
Yes, but yes, leadership, because it starts with leadership, and then the culture will reflect that. And true leaders are the ones that enforce or set the example or enforce the culture.
Yeah.
Right. And so, look, opposition is always good in anything, as long as it's constructive, right? I have my own style, and I respect the people who challenge it, that debate, all that. But as long as we have the same vision or mission,
and you buy into it, right?
Yes.
Like you all have to buy into it.
Everyone has to,
or it will fail. And there are examples of, trails of failures born of exactly what you're talking about, right? Not buying into the vision. If you cannot buy into it, you're doomed.
You're doomed, because how do you then do the tactical decisions?
Yeah.
Not even strategic decisions.
Not even strategic. It's the basics.
The basics, right? If your company doesn't believe in customer service as being a priority, it'll never be a priority.
Yeah.
And then, it just goes from the top down, right? And then there's such a thing of winning cultures, winning organizations, successful organizations. They have that culture, like in basketball.
You can feel it.
You can feel it.
Right? You walk into the doors of the Google campus in Santa Monica. There is a vibe.
There's a vibe.
There is a vibe. And, cultures of excellence are a direct reflection of leadership.
100%.
Yeah. And so if the visions are conflicted, you're going to also feel it every single time.
You're right. I mean, you can smell the culture.
You totally can.
You can smell the culture, and winning cultures have a culture of pride, and passion.
Creativity,
the ability to, feel valued and to be heard.
Yeah.
You know, in any level.
Seen
and be seen, right? Heard and seen. And so there's a formula for success, I believe.
Yeah.
You know,
what's your formula?
Well, my formula for success is passion, and having, and combined with hard work and pride for what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so, and loving what you do. Yeah. I think that's important. You don't love what you do, then it's just work.
Yeah. And it's just, average. You'll never be great.
You never like want to put the extra effort in, right? You're just living paycheck to paycheck versus, people who love what they're doing. It doesn't seem like hard work to them. And so.
But you have to make money too, right?
Of course.
Like on the other side,
course.
I had a guy I had a business with, and he, because I'm like you. I will always chase my passion, right? Because I am at my best when I love or believe in something, right? Like I will not stop. I sleep it, I breathe it. And he said, a business that doesn't make money after 3 years is a hobby.
Yeah.
And I think he's right. Like, as I've gotten older, I'm like, wow, that was really more of a hobby than a business, you know?
That's true. But also, sometimes it takes a little while, to start a business to become successful. But as long as you're willing to take that risk.
Right. And you're aware of it.
And you're aware of it. You plan for it.
And you plan it. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, starting this business venture, I knew that the money wasn't going to happen right away.
No, it never does.
It doesn't. So I've had to, rely on other sources, borrow money, bootstrap, all of those things to be sustainable. But just as long as you have a plan, right? Yeah. But of course, after 3 years, if your plan hasn't been successful, I think you need to rethink the plan.
Yeah, or reevaluate,
pivot,
Or call it a hobby.
Yeah, call it a hobby, and as long as you can,
told me I was a hobbyist, not an entrepreneur.
But isn't it awesome when it's both?
Yeah,
when you have a hobby
together, that's how excellence is born.
Not everyone can do what they love. I've just been kind of lucky.
Everyone is capable of doing what they love, but some people don't know what they love. And some people,
don't want to take the risk.
Yeah. And that's okay. Right. Yeah. Like it takes all kinds of people.
Yeah. I knew early on what I would want to do. Yeah. So of course, number one is video games.
Yeah.
Number two would probably be like sports management. Right. And number three would be Bobby sneakers.
Right.
But it's something that I knew that what I'm passionate about.
At least you have like the hierarchy.
Yeah, I have the hierarchy. Like like if they put me as head of creative for Nike, then I probably
you'd be all right.
I'll be okay.
Yeah,
or or if I was the I don't know, I can be like the merch guy for the Sacramento Kings or something.
You've got so many plans, so many rabbit holes you can explore.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your honesty and authenticity, and really just sharing your story. I know we didn't talk about your business partner who's an influencer.
Oh yeah.
But right now, your story to me was the main story today.
Thank you so much.